Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you're listening to
Girls Nerd Out. Hello everyone. It is Amanda and Andrea here.
Hello.
Hey. So, this is going to be season 2 of our podcast, which sounds crazy, but it's true. And we are about to delve into Tolkien, Rings of Power.
Yes.
So, the Dragon Girls are going elf. I mean, it's kind of nice getting into like a fandom that we don't know every little nook and cranny.
I like The Lord of the Rings and I like The Hobbit, at least one of the Hobbit movies. But this show is actually really enjoyable for me because like I feel relaxed while watching it and I don't have to. I mean, the names I'm gonna have to get used to, but I really enjoy the story and the look of it. So I'm excited to watch season 2, and I'm sure Amanda is as well.
I am. I really am. We're gonna go over episodes 1 through 4 of season 1, and then next week we'll go over 5 through 8. So it'll be a catch up just to get us ready. It's slightly more relaxing than going over House of the Dragon in a funny way. So
I'm not mad at anybody yet, so that's nice.
No, you're not mad at anybody. I'm not mad at anybody. Oh yeah, and please, if you're a Tolkien purist and you're listening to us, just be very kind, because we're probably gonna mess up Elvish and elf names. We'll get better though. Every time we'll get better. So this series takes place during the Second Age. And there are 3 ages. And they're basically divided into who the bad guy is. So in the First Age, the big bad is Morgoth, who was incredibly terrifying. And Valinor is the Undying Lands, where there are 2 trees, and they're kind of like the trees of life, basically. The First Age had the War of Wrath, and that is where the elves fought Morgoth and defeated him. And Sauron, who we obviously know from Lord of the Rings, he was under Morgoth.
Yeah, he was like one of his top generals, I think, is what they said in the show.
Yep, he sure was. And as far as I understand, but apparently Sauron, he had his own plan. And so the Second Age is battling him. And then the Third Age, which is the Lord of the Rings, that time period, that's when Sauron comes back. Yeah. So the ages are kind of divided by who the bad guy is. What's really cool, though, is that we talk about, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, we talk about the balance of magic. Like, the dragons come back because White Walkers and all that. Well, there's the same sort of thing here, which is not shocking because George loves Tolkien. So whenever there's a bad guy, the Valar send over either elves or the Astari, which are the wizards, to help like balance out, because they know that there's evil. So I thought that was really cool. All right. So I think that's a pretty good overview, not getting too terribly deep into it.
So, like, the very beginning starts off talking about how, like, the thousands of years ago, the elves were in Valinor, and, you know, they're the dying tree. You talked about that because of Morgoth. And then we meet Galadriel, which I thought it was really cute when she was little, with the little boat in the water.
Yeah, with her brother. Yeah.
Her brother is so sweet. He seemed like such a good guy. Mm-hmm. And then they show the battle against Morgoth, and he gets killed by, I believe, Sauron. I mean, they needed to fight Morgoth, so that made sense. But, you know, at what cost? Because so many lives were lost. Mm. And I really liked the placement of the helmets, of the Elvish helmets, and very emotional. The actress for Galadriel is very good acting.
She's very good. A big issue people had was that she is a lot different than the Galadriel that we meet in Lord of the Rings, and she's also in The Hobbit with Kate Blanchett.
Hmm.
But I think that's intentional because this is a long time before that Galadriel, and I think what we're going to see is how this Galadriel becomes that one. Wouldn't you say? That's what I think.
Yeah, I think eventually she'll become more peaceful, but right
Yeah.
now it's just not going to happen, and it's understandable why she is the way she is because of
Hmm.
all the elves lost and her brother. I mean, she's more focused on her brother, but it's they were very close, you could tell.
Yeah, the thing about it is like elves live for such a long period of time. When an elf is killed, it's like it hits harder. You know how Frodo asked Sam, like he's like, I thought you wanted to see the elves. And like when he does see the elves, he just stares at them like they're just these things that's just like, oh my gosh. Like they're incredible, they're magic. So having one die, it just hits harder. It's just sad. And like she really grieved her brother, and that grief turned into, I mean, she's on a quest. She's on a personal quest.
She is. The men that she's with, when they go, I forget the area that they're at with all the winter looking stuff. It was really pretty. I really liked the, I don't know what that creature was in there, but he was really interesting looking.
Are you talking about when they find Morgoth's old stronghold with the creepy orcs? Is that
Yeah,
what you're talking
was
about?
that his
Yeah,
stronghold?
yeah, yeah,
It just
yeah.
looked like a ice cave to me. I wasn't.
Yeah, it
Maybe I
was.
didn't
It
pay close
was.
attention. Sorry about that.
No, no, you're not. No, 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 you're not supposed to. That's not really explained really well. But let me tell you about it, like really quick because it's actually really cool.
It's a pretty out area.
Yeah. Okay. So apparently she went there because she knew that that was one of Morgoth's strongholds, right?
Okay, that
So
makes
then
sense.
they walk in and there's dead orcs in like weird positions and they're like attached to the rock,
Yeah,
right? Okay. And
yeah.
it's real creepy. Okay. So apparently those orcs were meddling with the powers of the unseen world, which is like the evil of the world. And what they think is those orcs were trying to perform a ritual that actually helped Sauron go into the void and
Okay,
hide.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so like those orcs did the like evil magic and sacrificed themselves so Sauron could disappear. He had planned to be the next Morgoth. So anyway, yeah, no, that's a creepy little scene, but I thought it was really cool.
And then she realizes like the trail is cold there, so they end up
Mm-hmm.
having and there's like some kind of discrepancy between her and her people that she was with because they were not. They were like, she's crazy, we need to go, like this is crazy kind of attitude.
Well,
So
they've been going for so long,
it's
and
understandable.
she's obsessive. That's what it
Yeah,
is, and
she is.
because it's her brother, she's obsessive, and they're getting to the point where it's like, look, we've done this for as long as we can. I think they were just tired, and she's
Yeah.
not going to give up. She's not going to give up.
So we meet Elrond for the first time, and
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him yet, but we'll see. I mean, he's not terrible. I just it just doesn't remind me of the when we maybe it's just like how people were upset with Galadriel in this show. Maybe eventually he'll become the movie Elrond. Who knows?
The hair threw off a lot of people. A
Yeah, the
lot.
hair, the attitude. I mean, he is very nice. I'm not gonna say that. I just don't get the uppity feeling in the movies like I do in the show. I know elves have like a superiority thing going on sometimes, but
Well, the elves obviously live a whole lot longer than anyone else. It's elven time dilation. It makes them detached from the other races. It's one of the reasons the other races don't really trust them. They have a detachment from other races because they perceive time completely different. because they live for so long.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought you'd find that cool. So they're not assholes. It's they're detached. They can't really help it because time it just goes so much slower for them in a blink of an eye, for someone else. So that's kind of why people don't trust the elves. It's because they're detached. So there you
that
go.
that makes a lot of sense. So I don't really feel like he is too uppity, but there's just certain scenes where he seems like that. But now that I understand it, maybe I can enjoy him more.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's Hugo Weaving. You and I talked about this. Hugo Weaving as Elrond is iconic, and
I
he
know.
just has a presence. And do I feel that from this guy? No. I just keep seeing young Ned Stark, but maybe in season 2, maybe it'll give some Hugo Weaving. Maybe.
And then we meet Elrond's dad, who is Arendelle. He I think I'm saying his name right. He is pretty interesting. I think he's a very very good looking elf.
Wait, are you talking about the one that gives the speech?
Isn't that his dad?
Arendelle is a star, and that's Elrond and his brothers. That's their
I'm sorry.
dad.
He acts like his dad. That's why I'm like,
Yes, he does. He does. And it's because Elrond is actually his herald. He writes his speeches for him. So,
oh, why did I
yeah,
get that wrong? I'm
because
sorry.
because it seems like a paternal relationship. And you know what? It's good that you say that because the people listening to us right now, like unless you dig into this, you're not going to know. So,
True.
Arendelle and Elwing had Elros and Elrond. Aragorn is a descendant of Elrond's brother. Okay? So
Yes.
Galadriel and Celeborn, they have a daughter, Celebrian. She marries Elrond, and then we have Arwen. It's funny because it's like, no, that's not his dad. His dad's a star. I mean, like,
Yeah.
these are things that we're not used to dealing
And I got
with.
his name wrong too. It's Gilgalad. That's the Elf King right now. I am so sorry.
No, don't be sorry because anything like that, you're not the only person that's going to wonder that.
He also kind of acts like a father figure to Galadriel too. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
just how the kings act sometimes, or just this one.
I mean, but it makes sense. They've probably known each other for a really long time.
I really like him though.
I
Well,
do too.
except for this one part because Galadriel wants to hunt for Sauron, and he's just like, nah, he's gone. There's nothing left. We're just gonna disband this army, which is just odd to me. But he is the king, and I guess what he
Well,
says goes.
get this. He disbands her because he knows Sauron's still out there and he thinks that she is going to incite him and bring him back. He
That's
knows.
interesting.
So he gives a speech and it looks like Galadriel and her army are being rewarded
Yes.
because he's going to send them to Valinor, the Undying Lands. And Galadriel has this look on her face, like stank face. She knows it's not, she's being exiled. And she knows that. And it's because Gilgalad knows she won't let go. She'll never stop. And he's worried that it's an obsession at this point. I mean, I understand it, but it's an obsession. He's worried that she will just uncover evil and bring it back. Now, is that the right move? I don't know.
That's also not the first time someone assumes she's going to bring destruction to something in this show, so
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
So he thinks he can ship her off to the Undying Lands, and whatever is evil will stay where it's supposed to be. But we know evil doesn't stay where it's supposed to be.
It definitely does not. We're going to the Southlands, which I find very interesting. All
Oh,
these people
yeah.
are interesting here.
I knew you'd like the Southlands. I knew it.
I do because, well, I think the humans are very interesting, and I also find the orcs very interesting. Plus, we get to meet my favorite elf, which is Arender. So uh, he's very different from the other elves. He doesn't act like he's
Well,
above anybody either, but maybe that's because of its race.
yeah, exactly. It's because he's a Sylvan elf. The Sylvan elves did not go to Valinor. They
Yeah.
decided to stay behind. And so the high elves are a little crappy to the Sylvan elves, which are the woodland elves, which are like Legolas. So you picked up on that really quick, and it's true. And the actor is fantastic. Randiel is really interesting, and I really had a feeling you'd like him. I just did.
He's well, he's beautiful for one thing, but that's not what got me to him. It was the fact that like he just automatically cares about people. Really, I mean, well, he's already got like some kind of love affair going on with the human Bronwyn, but like he cares about her son. He cares about the people in general. So it's nice, and him and his I don't really want to call them coworkers, like his people that he's with, they are just protecting the humans or keeping an eye on them. So
Yeah, because the Southlanders stood with Morgoth and lost,
yeah.
so they're being watched, and I found that really interesting. Like, that's pretty creepy that you're watching these people. You know, some of them are good, but you know, some of them are hoping that that evil returns.
There's some kind of tunnels built underneath the houses, and he's gonna help look through there, and you see him get taken by the orcs.
Do you remember when Bronwyn gives Arendelle some seeds?
Yes.
Okay. He is from Beleriand, which is really hard for my brain because all I can think of is the dragon Beleriand, which is obviously where the name came from.
Well, yeah.
Beleriand was lost and sunk in the First Age, so his home is gone. And she gives him alpharin seeds, which is a flower from Beleriand. So that's why he seemed so touched. It's seeds from his homeland that no longer exist. So I thought that was sweet.
They have really good chemistry. I mean, like I said, he really likes her, and he likes her son.
What do you think about how the orcs look? I liked it.
They're different looking, and they sound different too a little bit to me. I like it a lot.
I do too. I found out that I believe at least a couple of the orcs were people that were orcs in Lord of the Rings. And I thought that was kind of neat. And I kind of thought maybe that the differences were because these are like second age orcs. I'm kind of chalking it up to that. So they're similar, but they do sound different.
And I'm
So
gonna have to really look at the orcs more because I'm pretty sure that's all makeup, and I like that. I mean, they didn't use any CGI on them. That's awesome.
yeah, they didn't have as big a budget on season 1 as season 2 because they had to purchase the rights, but I love this change of not relying totally on CGI. It just feels so much more real, like so much. And I'm very glad that they decided to go with prosthetics instead of CGI. Because Andrea, you and I had a conversation about how The Hobbit just didn't really feel the same for us because of the massive amounts of CGI. It just didn't hit the same as Lord of the Rings. It just didn't. We're about at episode 2 now.
Elrond is sent on a mission by he's their smith.
Yeah.
Well, something like that. Yeah.
Celebrimbor.
He wants to build a new forge, and they need help from the dwarves. So Elrond is going to be sent on a mission because he is friends with the prince.
The Southland, an interesting thing, Theo is Bronwyn's son, and he
Yeah.
irritates me.
You don't like him?
It's just because he's like nosing around and getting into stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ah. But again, it makes sense. He's a kid. So Theo finds a broken sword.
Yes, that sword. I don't recall him saying a name yet, right?
No, we don't know the name of it,
But
but
it's
it has,
interesting.
yep, and it has what on it? It has a symbol.
Yes, the symbol, the same symbol we've been seeing.
It has the Morgoth symbol on it, and it's a broken sword, and it's a bit creepy because in order for the sword to continue to do what it does, it takes blood from the host.
It doesn't even ask, so it just does
Nope.
it.
It just takes. it's actually a pretty quick scene, but we do see Galadriel. She does get on the ship with her army to go to Valinor.
Yeah, but then she
She
backs away.
she does. I thought this was really cool. A curtain opens up. It's like made out of gray mist, and that takes you to the Undying Lands, and some birds fly out. It's really pretty. One of my favorite characters of Tolkien's is Tom Bombadil, and he's not in the movies. That's like a thing. It's a bit like a missing Nettles in House of the Dragon. Tom Bombadil is great, but he has a line about that, but they give it to Gandalf in the movies, and it's when he comes back as Gandalf the White, he actually describes the curtain that we see in Rings of Power.
The grey red curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it. White shores. And beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise.
I thought it was really cool that what Gandalf describes is what we see Galadriel and her army going into. And she's like, nope,
Yep,
nope.
she's all about her revenge. So,
And she sees the meteor.
yes.
And she sees that as a sign that she needs to not go to Valinor.
Yep, it's an interesting sign.
We see the Harfoots.
Yes, Nori is the main one that we follow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we follow them all technically, but Nori is the standout character for me. Her and her dad mostly. I like her and her dad the most. But they are just such a interesting group. They're very so they're well,
Ancestral hobbits. They're
yes,
pre-hobbits. They're
pre-habits, but they're not
Harfoots.
called habits yet.
Yeah, they're called the Harfoots.
Yeah,
They're led by Sadok, and like hobbits have hobbit holes. Well, these are nomadic pre-hobbits, and Nori's last name is Brandyfoot,
yeah,
and it's likely that the Proudfoots that are in the Lord of the Rings that are at Bilbo's party are descendants of the Brandyfoots.
I see
So
that.
it's just kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah, so these are pre-hobbits, they're the Harfoots, and their whole thing is they move. They
Yeah,
go.
they like to migrate a lot, very often.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that I really liked from this story, from their story, is that a man falls from the sky and
Mm-hmm.
makes a huge dent in the ground. And he doesn't know really how to talk or act because he comes from somewhere not here. And a lot of people think this is Gandalf because it kind of looks like Gandalf.
Yeah. If you look at the credits, he's just called the Stranger.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is he comes over on this meteor. He makes this big crater, and it looks like fire, but it's cool to the touch, which is like the One Ring.
Yes.
When you, in Gandalf's classic line, it's quite cool. Okay, so you get that. This is the Second Age. Gandalf and the other wizards are sent from Valinor, and they're the Astari. They decided to look like old wizards so that they would have people trust them. That's their chosen form. Well, in the Second Age, Gandalf's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be the two blue wizards, and that's how some Tolkien fans got angry. And I understand. I mean, God knows you and I, we have beef with Ryan Condal over the colors of eggs, or I do. So I can't say anything, but it's thought that it's probably Gandalf because it would explain his fondness for hobbits later on.
Oh,
But
yeah. Him
I
and
mean,
Nori have such a close relationship right away. It's very sweet.
right,
I'm
and
obsessed.
same, and like we're never really told why Gandalf likes the hobbits so much. Maybe Gandalf is taken in by the Harfoots and he watches over them for like that long. That'd be really cool. I like that.
And she manages to keep him as a secret for a while. It's really interesting.
Yeah, she does. She's a lot more bold and brave than the other Harfoots. And I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. Like the hobbits stick to themselves and the Harfoots do too. The Harfoots move around because they don't want to deal with things. The hobbits stay in their hobbit holes because they don't want to deal with things. Yeah, she does hide him out for a while. And he tries to explain where he's from by whispering to some fireflies that then show like a star chart, which is
Yeah.
cool. And the thing about that is when he whispers to the fireflies, it immediately makes you think of Gandalf whispering to the moth when he is at the top of Isengard and needs rescue and the eagle comes and gets him. So I feel like they're leading us to really think it's Gandalf. I could be wrong.
I mean, when I originally saw him, I thought, okay, he might be Gandalf. But then the way he acts, and now I know you explained because of the whole not talking very well and not knowing how to act, and that's probably, I mean, he just dropped from the sky, so of course he's not going to act normal yet. But he gave me Radagast vibes for the way that he was acting. So that's why I was like, I know it's not Radagast, but he just gives me that vibe.
Oh, and that would Radagast is more like Gandalf than Saruman. Saruman is good at first, but he's very serious. And Radagast is not serious. And then
No.
Gandalf is somewhere in the middle, leaning more not serious. So yeah, no, I get that. I get it.
Yeah, because later you see that he doesn't act like that anymore. He acts more like normal.
I would assume if he's in a story, he was sent. He's never been there. And I don't know if he has amnesia or not. It kind of seems like he does.
Yeah, and like there's a cute scene at some point where he's like, "Me bad, me bad." Like I know that's later, but it sticks out to me because again, I really like her Nori and his relationship so much. It's just so cute.
And, okay, so they don't want us to know who that is. So we're given some moments that very much make you think Gandalf, but when he talks to the fireflies don't make it. And it's like, wait a minute, is he good or evil? So the stranger
Yeah,
does something and the dad's ankle snaps, and that is death for a Harfoot
yes,
because they are nomadic. And if you can't, it's very Dothraki. If you can't ride, then you're dead.
you're
It's
on
like
your own because they're not really for you, so they're not going to help
no,
you.
no, which gives Hobbit because the Hobbits they don't want anybody to mess with them. They keep to themselves. Well, the Harfoots have learned we have to be on the move, and if you can't make it, then they leave you. I mean, it's a harsh reality. I mean, I get it, but they're not going to put you on a cart and pull you because everybody's got as much as they can do.
And you know how I enjoy acting when they don't speak much,
Mm-hmm.
and his acting without even saying anything is really well done. So Galadriel's in the water. She finds this what is it, a skiff? It's just like a plank. It looks like it's not
Yeah.
really a huge, it's not like a normal boat. And there's a bunch of people that look like they're starving and they're tired, and she gets on with them and they help her up, and we meet Halbrand. I really like him. He's a standout character for me as well.
She ends up in the water because she jumps off the
Yes.
boat because she's not going to go to Valinor. And
No.
these are some castaways
Yes.
that you don't know at first. They look freaked out.
Yes.
Well,
And
it's because
hungry.
there's a sea worm, a giant
Yes.
sea worm that they're aware of.
I
Which
like him. I like the monster.
I knew you would. I knew it. As soon as I saw the sea worm, I was like, "Here we go. It's close enough to a kraken. She's going to be pro sea worm." And you know what? I that's why it's one reason I love you. Um, so Andrea is a fan of the sea worm. The sea worm did nothing wrong. She's a sea worm apologist.
Just living his life, and these
He,
random people just came and invaded his space. That's it.
I mean, it's not wrong. He's a sea worm, so that's his area. So she kind of crawls up on the castaways' wood, and they're like, "No, man, we don't
We
need
can't
more." Yeah.
we can't help
Um,
you.
and Halbrand is the only one that's helpful to her, which makes him stand out. But the thing is, you see Halbrand when the sea worm comes back, he's real quick to separate himself from them to save himself.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, but he does save Galadriel, which is interesting.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's automatic, their chemistry. It's like automatically, like, we're in this together sort of thing.
yeah, and that can be explained by him seeing that she's like strong and the others are terrified, and it's like, okay, if I want to live, then I need to separate myself from the weak. I mean, that's kind of a common theme. It's a harsh land. Middle Earth is not what you see, at the end of Lord of the Rings. No, they've just gotten over Morgoth.
What I noticed about Numenor is that there is just humans, just humans there, and they are anti-elf.
Well, okay, this is what happened. Numenor is a star-shaped island that was given to the men for fighting Morgoth with the elves. It was a gift. And they also gave the Numenorians extended life. They don't live as long as elves, but they live way longer than other men. So, what has happened over many, many years? The Numenorians are starting to forget about the elves or resent the elves because they lived for so long. While you're walking around Numenor and you see different areas, there will be a statue of an elf or like a little area that looks like someplace where you might pray or something like that. And the all the elvish statues are getting covered up with vines. And it pretty much tells you that they're being forgotten, and at the same time, the Numenorians are not fond of them because Numenor is in between Valinor and Middle Earth. And they're close enough to Valinor to be constantly reminded that the elves over there live forever. And generation after generation becomes a little more bitter at everything that they have instead of being appreciative of Numenor. And that's not all of them. But there's even a couple times there are beautiful paintings, or like there's murals on the wall, and it's of the men and the elves fighting together, but the paint's peeling off.
But I really do like the queen. Her name is
She's
Muriel.
great. Yeah,
Muriel,
she's good. Muriel.
and she's really smart too. So I'm cool with that. We also get to meet Isildur.
Yeah, Isildur, and the only reason I remember that is because I can hear Elrond in my head. Isildur, cast it down.
So he's the son of Elendil. When we see him, he's a sea guard. Well, and he wants to be an adventurer. He doesn't want to be the sea guard anymore, and I get it. I wouldn't want to be a sea guard either.
Mm-mm.
But it will look bad if he leaves, and it does look bad.
Yeah, because his dad's really well respected, and his sister is not a fan of him not doing what he's supposed to be told.
She doesn't seem to like that there's an elf there either.
I think her purpose is to really represent the Numenorians that are starting to really resent the elves.
Yeah, but hers is really, I don't know.
It's
I get
bad.
weird vibes from her.
Yeah,
Um,
I think she despises elves, like bad.
I'm like, if you just talk to Gladriel for 5 minutes, it'll be fine.
Well, okay, well, here's one thing. So when they throw Galadriel and Halbrand into those cells, Numenor's not supposed to have cells. It's supposed to be a place of peace.
Yeah.
And so the cells have like statues inside. They're repurposed rooms. It's showing the desecration of Numenor by having an actual jail cell.
So Galadriel wants access to their records of
Mm-hmm.
Sauron. Well, they find that symbol that she's been obsessed with for how long isn't really a symbol. It's a map of the Southlands, which I found very interesting.
I mean, it's crazy because you think it's a symbol. I mean, and it kind of looks like an M. So you're thinking, is that M for Morgoth? No,
Yeah.
no. It lines up with the map of the Southlands.
And I love that.
Yeah, it's a huge surprise. And it's like everything clicks for her in that moment. It's like, oh my God, it wasn't a symbol, it's a map.
And I had to rewind a couple of times because I was just so obsessed with how the building looked, and like I was just obsessed with her and Elendil talking that I was like, oh my God, it's a map. And then we find out about Halbrand, and I'm like, oh my God.
The piece of paper that has the symbol on it, it has a ring around it.
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously Sauron is already thinking about rings. So
Yes.
I thought that was interesting because we're nowhere near the forging of any rings, but there's a ring around that symbol. So, and of course, Galadriel is going to be obsessed because now she knows where she needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And she also feels like, oh, okay, well, everybody told me to stop looking. Well, apparently I didn't need to.
Nope.
So she
It's
got the
right there.
confirmation that she wanted. Every once in a while, Halbrand just kind of throws out something because, like, he seems like this regular guy for a lot of times, and then he'll just have a moment, and you're like, wait a minute.
Well, and he's
Wait.
definitely not a regular guy now.
So Halbrand is talking to Galadriel, and he's giving her advice, and he says, you do well to identify what it is that your opponent most fears. And she says, and exploit it, which is exactly what you would think. And he says, no, give them a means of mastering it so that you can master them.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you give somebody so you could master them? A ring of power. So at this point, we pretty much know who he is. Galadriel has been spending time with Sauron.
Sauron.
Yeah, and so it just like floods you with this whole new information, and then you start thinking about like Galadriel talking about Sauron, and then in The Hobbit when she fights him and sends him back into shadow, it's like, oh my God, like she knew him. I mean,
And that's probably why she feels betrayed, because she trusted him.
oh, and Halbrand begs to work at the forge in Numenor.
He steals the little thing that they have to wear to work there. It's very interesting. All the lengths that he goes through to get that so he can work there.
Like you said, Elrond has been sent on a mission to go see
Yeah.
the dwarves because the dwarves are known to be able to make anything. And Celebrimbor wants a giant forge created. Khazad-dûn is known to us. That is what we see in Lord of the Rings, where the cave troll comes out. But we see it as completely decrepit, spider webs, dead dwarves everywhere. It's a very dark and scary place where eventually Gandalf encounters the Balrog. We see Khazad-dûm way before that, and it is stunning. It is
Beautiful.
beautiful, yes. And here's something kind of interesting. There are trees, there's plant life, and you're wondering because like we're underground, how does that happen? Here's a really cool thing. They actually use mirrors to direct sunlight in. And that's why those little patches and little areas that have like the greenery, that's how they're able to grow, is because of mirrors adjusted just right to reflect the sunlight in, which I thought was really, really cool because we actually see one of the hobbits, I think it's Frodo, is staring at a mirror, and I think he's wondering what it's there for. So
Yeah.
now we actually know. So that's just like a little cool thing. But Khazad-dûm is absolutely beautiful, and Elrond is denied passage. He doesn't know why. So he evokes the right of, I think it's Sigyn Tarog. It's the right of the Longbeards. It's basically an endurance test. It's like saying I want trial by combat, sort of. Then Durin and Elrond have this like rock breaking endurance or whatever, and obviously Elrond does well. He's an elf, and Elrond doesn't understand why he was denied entrance because he's very close friends with Durin. Well, so we find out, and this one got to me. So after the endurance test, Durin tells Elrond that he's angry at him, and Elrond looks totally confused. And Durin tells him, 20 years, maybe the blink of an eye to an elf, but I've lived an entire life in that time, a life you missed. And Elrond's face, because to an elf, that was nothing. And it showcases how removed they can be, but also showcases that Elrond is trying because he really absorbs that statement in, and he is so remorseful that he hurt his friend because he's been gone for 20 years. I thought that was a really cool scene. I like that a lot.
Well, yeah, he's been gone, and like, and Durin has like a whole wife and kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many kids. We didn't see them, but yeah.
Yeah,
Sounded like 2, but I could be wrong.
yeah, it looked like he had a couple kids. Durin's wife is Diza. Diza
I
has
love
a
her.
a lot of people like Diza a lot. She has a very important purpose in Khazad-dûm, which is really cool. What Diza does with a group is it's called resonating. They sing into a cavern, and the vibration and the frequency helps them find the mineral deposits. And she explains it really well to Elrond. Basically, like Khazad-dûm's like a person, and if you sing to it properly, each of those parts, just like a person, will reflect your song, and it will reflect it back to you. And she says by them doing that, it tells them where to mine, where to tunnel, and also where to leave the mountain untouched. I thought that was interesting
Yes.
because that gives you an idea that you ain't supposed to be going in every part of the mountain. Oh, Durin's father is Durin the Third.
Third, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we get a little scene where he is asking his son if Elrond is there for the Mithril,
Mithril, yeah.
which he's
Well, Elrond
not.
doesn't even know about Mithril yet, so I was like, I
Mm-mm.
get where he's thinking that, but I'm like, he doesn't even know about it yet.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that that Mithril is coming from a place in the mountain that maybe they shouldn't be messing with.
I definitely don't think they should be, but
No. Mm-mm.
elves or Or, I mean, I don't know much about Mithril yet, but from what I'm getting, if the dwarves are hiding it from the elves and the elves already know about it, it's kind of like, well, some of them do. I don't know about everyone, but I mean, at least Galad Galdia, gosh, Gilgalad knows about it. So
Well, so Durin tells Elrond about it,
yes, he does.
which is interesting. But I mean, they've been friends for a long time, and he gives him a piece of it, a pretty big piece. And that piece, likely, Celebrimbor uses that piece to forge Nenya. Nenya's one of the elvish rings, and that is actually Galadriel's ring later on. So I
Yeah.
think we see that the piece that makes Nenya. So that's kind of cool. It's like an Easter egg, I think. Oh, and just in case people don't know, Mithril is what Bilbo wore, and then he gives it to Frodo, and it saves Frodo's life because and what does Bilbo say? Light, it's light, but it's hard as dragon scale.
That is very
So
true.
yeah, and that's the only Mithril we know about. And Bilbo has it and gives it to Frodo. It's just like, no, this is just something practical that could save your life. But this mining of it, you get a completely different vibe. Completely.
And the way that dwarves, I mean, the ones that know about it are acting, and the way that the elves are acting, yeah, it definitely has something.
Mm-hmm.
And the what I found interesting was King Durin says that he does not want to risk his people's lives to save elf lives. So
And there you go.
yeah,
So you get the idea that yes, there are some elves friends with dwarves. Yeah, there's some people, some Numenorians okay with elves. But you're not getting a lot of, I'm going to stick my neck out for the other race. You're not getting that at all. When Galadriel figures out that that symbol is actually a map,
yeah,
she reads in black speech, which is, you know, the speech of Morgoth and Sauron. And what she says translates to a plan by which to create a realm of their own where evil would not only endure but thrive. So they want to carve out their own place.
which they are trying to do.
And what does it end up being? Mordor.
Yep.
Because there's a tower that lines up perfectly with a mountain that is going to be Mount Doom.
Nori gets him the map, right, of the star that he's looking for. I really liked that scene. I mean, it's not hugely important. I just really like how she steals it. It's really
Yeah.
cute. Um,
Because she's just different. She's different from the other Harfoots.
the problem with it is, she's stealing from them. Also, she's helping out a stranger when they don't really do that. She's giving him this map, and he's looking at it at the fire, and it catches on fire.
Bless his heart.
And it's fine, but it causes a whole thing, and then now the Hardfoots know what she's doing, and it's kind of interesting how they react to it. But they're just like, yeah, well, screw you. We're done with you. You're going to have to ride at the back.
Yeah, and so what they do is they tell them that their family is going to have to ride at the back. And that is a death sentence.
Death sentence, yep.
Yeah, it totally is. And I thought that was so incredibly sad. And I was like, no, no, I don't want that to happen. And something really cool and unexpected happens. Do you want to say?
When they get help,
Yeah.
the stranger helps them. He picks up their whole house, which is basically what I call it. I call it a house.
Yeah.
He helps them because, well, one thing, the dad's ankle is still not doing great, and they're at the very back, so he is going to help them carry it the rest of the way, and I love that.
He said one word though.
Oh,
He said friend.
yes, friend, because he cares about them a lot.
Yeah,
And
because they wouldn't make it at all without the stranger's help.
they would have
Nope.
died. They would have died.
And I feel like the reason why he says friend is because in Lord of the Rings, when they're at Khazad-dûm and they can't get in, Frodo's trying to figure it out, and he's like, "What's the Elvish word for friend?" So I kind of thought that was like maybe a little clue that it's Gandalf, because the doors that they're trying to open at Khazad-dûm were actually built by Celebrimbor. Since the elves live so long, there's a lot of connections that are just kind of neat to know, basically.
And and what else is interesting is once he decides to help and they leave, right? Where he landed is being looked at by this group of people in like white-ish looking outfits, and I don't know who they are, but they're very interesting because they're obviously looking for him, and I don't know if they come from the same land that he came from, but yeah,
We're not given much other than they're scary.
they don't look happy.
They're terrifying, and they're looking for him. And there's what, three of them, I think.
I think, yeah, three.
Yeah, they do not look like they are from anywhere in Middle Earth at all. Can you talk about Adar real quick?
Adar is an elf, and he is leading this group, this rogue group of orcs is what I call it. They make him out like a god, sort of. That's what I got it from. Like, he's very godlike for how the orcs act, around him. And they follow him and only him. So I guess I can see why people thought he was Sauron, but I don't think he is. So,
Well,
I don't think he worked for him either, but he is a godlike, in my opinion, just because he's just all knowing and all powerful, and even Arendelle is like obsessed with him, kind of. So he's terrified though too.
he's an incredible actor. Just in case anyone doesn't know this, it's the actor that played Uncle Benjen in Game of Thrones. So, I mean, as soon as you see him, you know he's going to be good. So, what's interesting is that Adar introduces himself as a fellow Sylvan elf from
Yeah.
Beleriand, the place that sunk. And another thing that's really cool is that Adar translates to father. He actually birthed the orcs that follow him.
Yes. So that's why, like, I feel like he's kind of like a god to them, like a dad figure, yes, but also like godly, like the cultish, very cultish.
Yeah, because we've never, this is totally new. We
Yes.
have never ever ever had anything, as far as like the movies or whatever, show the orcs as anything but pure evil. And now suddenly this wrench is being thrown in of, wait a minute. So you're an elf and you're making us see that they didn't choose to be what they are. And you're right. The orcs follow him. Yeah, it's like a cult. It's definitely like a cult.
And he's very different looking kind of elf.
What I was thinking, and I don't know if it has anything to do with it, is that Saruman, when he makes the Uruk-hai, they were elves that were twisted and turned evil. And the Uruk-hai are terrifying. And I wonder if Adar was an elf that maybe Morgoth did something to. I don't know.
Yeah, because his face, it looked orcish a little bit too, even though he's an elf. It looked kind of similar to the orcs that we see, a little bit. And the way he is about the sun, he's so interesting. I can't get enough of this character, and I can't wait to see more of him because he's just so fascinating to me.
There's a very quick scene when the meteor goes over.
Yes.
Very quick, and it's an Ent. I love the Ent so much. It's an Ent and his Ent wife and an Ent baby. Like, please let me see them again. Please. I mean, because the Ents, by the time it's Lord of the Rings, they've lost the Ent wives and they can't even remember what they look like. But we actually see a baby Ent like see the meteor and like cuddle with a parrot, and he's little, and it just, oh my gosh, I screamed. I screamed. Like, I love Treebeard so much. I love the Ents. I pre-ordered the Funko. It'll be here at some point. It's so cute because it has Merry and Pippin like on his limbs, and I'm obsessed. I'm
Oh,
obsessed.
they
I
had such
love
a good
Ents.
relationship with them too. It was so cute.
Oh gosh. And it was just like, it was like 3 seconds. And I was like, Ent family, Ent family. Anyway, I got way too excited. But here's just like a little random tidbit about trees for you. So in Numenor, Muriel has a vision of a wave coming and the petals coming off of the tree there.
Yep.
Well, what's cool is that the tree in Numenor is a descendant of the trees of the Valar. It came from a piece of those trees, and later on, Isildur takes seeds from the Numenorian tree, and that becomes the white tree of Minas Tirith. That's like iconic in Lord of the Rings that you see, and it's dead, and then later on, it has petals. So it just connects it. Trees are really big for Tolkien. Everybody just fell over for like Aragorn and Legolas, and I love Pippin, and I love Haldir, who was like the guy that brought the Elvish army. So
And I like all the elves, and I like the dwarfs, and I like the hobbits. That's me.
yeah,
Well,
we just like magic.
I like Frodo and Sam the most, but yeah, they're all great. And Bilbo. I love Bilbo.
I love Gandalf. I love
Yeah,
Gandalf a lot. I
great.
love when he's whimsical because it just gives it this whole thing of I'm really not a wizard. I'm actually an Astari. And it's one reason why Gandalf doesn't take certain things so seriously is because he's from the Undying Lands. And like when he comes back, it's so interesting. Like watching Rings of Power is going to make certain things in Lord of the Rings click more. Because when Gandalf comes back as Gandalf the White, like he doesn't even remember his name at first. He's like, "Oh, that's what they call me, Gandalf, Gandalf the Grey." It's because he was sent back to the Undying Lands and his job wasn't finished, so they brought him back. But get this, he has to be reminded that he was called Gandalf. What does the stranger have? Amnesia.
Yeah.
So there you go. I
There's
think it's going to be Gandalf. So next Thursday, we will go over episodes 5 through 8 and then probably talk a little bit about what we think is going to happen in season 2. Thank you, Andrea. That was really fun.
Thank you. Yes, I had fun.
Thank you all very much for
Thank
listening. We
you.
hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you next time.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda. And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.